Hi, this is Jeff Todd with Morville Press, and I am going to walk through a handful of things today. I had gotten some people that had mentioned wanting to see a couple things, a process of how I lay out a building, how I decide on the shape, what decisions that I make, things of that nature, and then also how I use some creativity in the development and layering of assets to create things maybe that I don't have or that don't come in the default asset pack. So I wanted to give maybe examples of both. So I think the first thing we'll do is talk a little bit about the process. So when I start a building, the first process that I want to do, so I'll go up here to the design tool, I'll pick building tool, and I'll basically, the first thing I'm deciding is on my floor and on my wall. So what kind of wall do I want to use? What kind of flooring do I want to use? So it really depends on how I want the building to feel. If I want it to be nice, considered like a wealthy building. It might be stone floor, it might be tile floor, it might be a wood floor. If it's an older building in like a slum or in a poor neighborhood or something of that nature, a ruin, something that's damaged, I might pick the wood damaged, or I might have like a grass or a straw floor that I can change and just be more like a mud floor. So it really depends on what I want to accomplish. So in this case, why don't we just make like a tavern, something simple? So I would pick this wood to start with, and for the tavern, we could either have stone walls or we could do wood walls. Let's go ahead and do wood walls. So the first thing I'm gonna do is change my wood flooring. I think probably I will do maybe like just a little bit richer and darker, so it has a little bit more of a warmth to it because we're making a tavern. So I want to pick something that has a warm feeling to it. I'll probably start with the rectangular object to drag and drop. So for people who've never used Dungeondraft before, I can go ahead and just drag and drop, any kind of size. It tells me the dimensions in the little XY coordinates. So this would be a perfect square 1111. And that's helpful sometimes when I'm trying to decide how much space I want to use in terms of making it. A lot of times what I do is I just start laying out the building. First of all, just to make sure I like the colors. And then also just start kind of playing around. You can kind of just keep dragging it like this, just to make the different shapes and dimensions. You can use Alt in a combination of that same keystroke. So I'm holding down my mouse key, and drawing a box, and then letting up on the left mouse button. If I hit Alt, you'll see that yellow circle turns to blue, and that means that you're now erasing. So if it's blue and it draws a blue box, it will then erase whatever it is that is being encompassed by the box. So that's a great way for me to just clear up mistakes. Maybe I don't like any of it, I can just start over. Incidentally, it's also a way that you can switch to a different tool like a circle, and I can use Alt to carve out a spot. So if I want a building that has an area that's curved in, I can use that to carve out an area and have it all naturally be represented. This can be important because when you're using the building tool to lay down your floor, this is the only time in terms of your walls will define where the flooring ends. So you'll kind of see here, I'll make a quick point. You'll see it kind of curves, right? And so like in this case, this square is partially encompassed by my tavern, partially encompassed by the outside. If I go here and I say I want this floor to be stone instead, and I'll click off snap for a moment. Snap incidentally will make my cursor go to vertices of these squares. And so it's great when you want very measured strokes that fully encompass squares and that go in straight lines. If I turn off snap, then it will let me kind of freehand draw whatever I want. So in this case, if I go here and change this to stone, so I've selected this cave floor, like maybe we can smart stone. If I change this one square, you'll see because I used the design tool, the building tool, to lay out this framework, it will stop that flooring from bleeding into this other half. Now, if I just draw a wall, if I go here and pick a wall and do something like this, where I draw something like that. Some people will do it this way, okay? Now, if you do that, and then you come in and you have an option, say for like pattern shape tool, I could go and take some wood, and I could put that into here. So now I've got my wood in here. That's a way to contain it. But if I add wood onto my structure, for example, if I take something like this, right, now if I want this section to only be colored and not this section out here, this is not going to have, even though it's enclosed, meaning this wall is connected to this wall is connected to this wall, or at least it overlaps, it's not going to share the same properties as this is. So if I go here and choose something like that, it's actually trying to build for me. So actually the only option I have is to use something like pattern tool if I want to put a section of floor in here like this. Okay, so let's return this. Let's go back to our wood. Okay, so I don't know that I want this shape, but why not? Let's go with that. Let's make an interesting shape. So let's add another wall. We'll look at another feature. So in this case, maybe I've drawn this shape, but I'm not happy with kind of the sides. I want the sides to be something different. So I will go to the design tool. I'll pick the polygon instead of, so if we've done the rectangle, we've done the circle, this is the polygon tool. So with the polygon tool, I'll turn snap on so it's going to the vertices, so it's easier and quicker for me to draw. So with this, I can draw kind of whatever I want. So I could say, take this down and make kind of a triangular pattern. So this is what, 4.5 rooms, and then come up to here. And then you just have to encapsulate it. So I'm just going to go underneath here so I don't overlap anything. And now I get, this kind of triangular look and feel. So, already to me, the geometry of this is communicating, or is saying a certain something to me. It has, for some reason, sort of Egyptianish feel to me, even though the coloring isn't that way. But the pyramidic nature of it, something about the half moon, or the shape of this kind of feels that way to me. So that's interesting. I feel like I want to have something down here to complement kind of this curve. So I might switch back to the circle and then come up here and maybe just add something like this. Now it almost looks kind of like I don't know, like a falcon, like some kind of bird of prey without, the head part, which is interesting. So maybe I like this. Let's go ahead and go with that. So the next step, once I've got the building determined in terms of the size and the shape, and I'm happy with it, then the next thing that I'll do is I will try to figure out where the halls should be, like inside. I won't draw walls yet. First, I'll switch over to Smart Stone. I'm a big fan of changing up flooring types inside a structure to break up sort of the monotony of it all being the same color. So maybe as a practice, what I should do first is lay out the walls, or maybe we'll go back and we'll show what that looks like. Anyway, what I want to determine is, where are people coming into the tavern? So are people coming in, from the south coming in, this is the front, or are people coming in this curved area and this is the front? I think it might be interesting if this is a more of a relaxed area. Maybe there's like a pool back here, or some game, or maybe a fighting platform or something like that. So let's make this the front. So if this is the front, then I want to think about the flow of how people are getting through here. And there's certain rooms that I need. I need bedrooms, I need kitchen, I need bathrooms. So I want to kind of get an idea. Now, if I want to frame this well, I may decide I'm going to have some hallways. So let's say that I think I'm going to have a hallway starting here, and we're going to have the hallway maybe come up this way. What I'm doing is I've got Smart Stone selected, I turn snap off, and now I'm just freehand drawing, and I'm going to switch over to rectangle instead of circle. I'm freehand drawing over, to select a new flooring. So this one's wood. If I select it like this, it turns into the Smart Stone. If I go back, it'll turn back to wood. Now you'll notice that the Smart Stone has this packed look to it, like a hallway. I really like the way this looks, but it only works that way if you have a singular path or a perpendicular path, where there isn't something like on the diagonal. If I do a diagonal, you'll see, unless it's connected to more Smart Stone, it has this other pattern. Also, if I connect more than one point, so if I made this like this, all works and still looks like the hallway. But if I go like this, then you'll notice that it changes. And so what I have to do is I have to make this piece not Smart Stone. I can accomplish that by picking other stone, and that kind of lets me do that and still have a stone here, or I can just change that back to the wood, or change this back to the wood. So let's go back to just setting the hallway. So I'm thinking this would be potentially a good break right here. Maybe the hallway, comes past this point. I'm not always a fan of symmetry, but we'll go ahead and do that for this case. So then we're looking at these two wings. I'm thinking the kitchen or something, maybe it would be over here somewhere, and then this would make a good storeroom. So I'm thinking that all of this is going to be kitchen area, so I don't need to do anything more with that. There will need to be something up this way. It's a little strange with this, the shape of this is going to make for some oddly shaped rooms, so that's going to be a little hard. I may, because of this room is not going to be great to use, I'm thinking maybe this space here is going to be used for something. And then down over here could be rooms or could be another chamber. So let's have the hallway extend here so we can deal with this. This will be one little room. This will be a room. Let's then also have the hallway come up to here. So this can be kind of its own thing. And then I think we will just kind of wall this off and try our best to make something out of that. Just for fun, let's make the hallway come up here too. Okay, so now I've kind of got like my common room. I've got some area designated in my mind for the kitchen and other areas. I've got maybe some bedrooms, some other possible rooms, and then obviously my hallways, which will lead us out into this little area out here. So the next thing that I would do is go into the walls, and I would start laying out the walls. And I'll turn it back on to snap because it's a little faster to go with that. So then I'll basically just start setting out the walls. Now, if they don't align perfectly, in this case, they probably all will. But in the case where I'm drawing out here, I think we might potentially see some breaks where it doesn't land exactly on a vertex. And I would have to later go in and edit it, but we'll get there when we come to it. So I can start drawing the walls in. I just kind of follow the hallways. I could start there. I could start up higher. I'll follow it all the way across just to make it easy. So this is a case of what I was talking. You'll see that it goes past. Don't worry about that. You can go in with edit points and fix that later. For now, we just want to lay it down. Okay, so we'll do that there too, and here as well. All right, so we've got all of our hallway encapsulated now. So it's all contiguous and makes sense, and it kind of has framed some rooms already. Over here, obviously, we haven't defined this space. We haven't defined all of this space. I'm thinking for the kitchen, we may as well use a lot of space. So we'll say that's the kitchen, that's the storage area. So this will be our kitchen, this will be our storage area. This can be a bedroom up here, that's a good size. This could be a bathroom or a closet or maybe nothing. Just kind of depends on what we want to use for the space. I think for here, we'll probably do the same thing. We could use something at an angle if we wanted to here. We could do something like this, which is a small room that we could potentially use for something. I'm not sure it's perfect yet. Doesn't need to be. So now what I'm doing is I'm editing points on the wall. So I clicked to edit points. I'm going to turn snap off. If I don't, it's only going to let me edit from vertex to vertex. Right, the vertex of that upper right hand of that square, grid square, to the lower left hand corner. If I want to, but that doesn't help me because this is not on a vertex. So I'll turn snap off, and now I can move this back, right, kind of at my leisure, and exactly where I want it. All right, we move all these in. Okay, so now it's all cleaned up and it looks fine. So then the next step in my process is to decide the other areas that I've got and what colors I want to make those areas. So in this case, I'll probably pick cave floor for the kitchen. I don't need it to be quite that dark, so I'll brighten it up just a little bit. Maybe something like this. And then I'll come here and I'll just start kind of filling in this area. All right, so now I've got this filled in. And I actually will make this the storage. I'm going to make a different color as well. Now that's pretty close. It's a little too close. So I know when this starts, it's always kind of like a weird green color, which isn't horrible to have a little bit of a tint, just because it looks different. So it could be something like that. It's a little too dark, too green. I'm going to go up and maybe over just a little bit. See if I can get a happy medium somewhere. Okay, that's almost there. You're kind of seeing my process. It's not all scientific. Sometimes I just want to eyeball it. All right, that's different enough. Visually I can see this is a different color, this is a different color, these are all different colors. So now looking at this, I would contest that visually it's much easier to see what parts of this building are hallways, what parts of this building maybe are a different purposed room than another, than if this was all just wood. If it was all wood, it's much harder to see all those things. I can do that very quickly, right? So if we change all of this back to wood, you'll see how quickly it loses a lot of that ease in terms of, now see, I made a mistake there. I used my cursor too far and it tried to manipulate the walls. Okay, so as compared to something like this is fine, and probably would be more realistic in the fact that the flooring of the entire building was the same. But I think it's harder to see visually where everything should be and what everything is. It doesn't communicate with me as well. And really what maps are doing are is a visual medium to communicate details to us. And I think it should communicate. There's an artistic element, there's a practicality to it. There's a playability for tabletop, things that you want to provide. So in this case, I really think it's important that we have these differences, because not only aesthetically, but practically, it communicates a lot better with our audience. And it breaks up the scene a bit. It lets our eyes relax a little bit more, because we don't have to parse as much all at once. We don't have to differentiate it. The colors are helping us differentiate it. Already, I'm thinking this, and this are all the same function, meaning it's space that, I don't know, characters are going to be co-mingling, and there are going to be rooms, there's going to be bed, there's going to be furniture, as compared to these rooms might be some other purpose. This hallway is obviously, there's not going to be probably furniture in this room, right? So if a room has a very distinct different purpose, then think about maybe having a different color for it. So in this case, I'm not going to go through building the entire tavern or example of this. What I really want to do is to build a couple of things where I help walk through, how do I solve problems where something isn't doing what I want it to, or there isn't a good option. So one of the things that I had to do that for were chimneys. So a chimney, I will go to the object tab here. So it's 3 down, object and object tool, fireplaces and chimneys. So I will start with the chimney, and this is where layers will be important. So I'll scroll down to one of my favorite chimney assets. And again, we're just building this out of stuff that already exists. Sorry for the scrolling. Sometimes I lose track of, every time they add assets in a new version, it changes the ordering of where it is. So I'm used to it being right here, but it's actually a couple over to the left. So I pick it here. I can resize it as I want. I'll keep it at 1. It's about a full 5 feet across. That's a pretty large chimney. I might size that down. Let's go to 0.75. I'm going to put this on 700 above walls layer so that it goes over my wall, because I want the chimney to kind of look, to the person like this is something that goes beyond this lower level. It could go all the way through the ceiling, so they understand that this is a chimney that continues upward. So in that case, I'll choose that. I will then also choose this guy and go and change the roll to black, and put that on top, and that'll be kind of like my smokestack. So now I have kind of like this little chimney. And now what I want to do is create a little, fireplace that we can cook from. I like the fireplaces. They just added some new ovens and stoves. They added stove one that's through, I think, 4. So there's different stove options, all of which are fine to play with. I'm going to use one of the ones that I've used before, because none of those really cater to having a lit fire underneath it, which I like for both lighting purposes and aesthetics. So we'll kind of scroll down to where they have the fireplaces. And I'm going to use this gray fireplace. I use this a lot. I'm going to go back and I'm going to switch this to layer 2. Almost everything that isn't something like a carpet or something that I intend to be underneath things, I start at layer 2. And just helps me from a building perspective. So first I will kind of zoom in here. I'm using control and mouse wheel. Those are actually down here, so you can see rotate is to use the mouse wheel. Alt plus that is to scale up and down. You can hold A to mirror an item. So if I want to change, it's hard for you to tell. Let me find something that's easier for you to see. Something that isn't so symmetrical like this. I'm going to size it up. So when I hit A, right, it flips it, it mirrors it, which is very helpful when I'm working with certain objects like stairs or something on certain screens, where I want the orientation comes out as standard, like to this direction, for example, where this is shading down. So in this case, the top the one going this direction, right, is the darker one, but maybe I want it to go this direction. And I can only really accomplish that by hitting, by mirroring it. Anyway, that's just a quick thing that took me a while to really understand that it existed and then how to use it. So I'll size this down till it kind of just looks right to me. Make it a little bit bigger. It looks like we're not going to be quite even with the wall. So this is the rotation where I can adjust just a little bit. So I might just change that a little bit until I get kind of nice and flush with the wall. So that looks good. So then I'm going to push this up against the wall. And then I'll go ahead and place that. Now, I will show the problem that people run into first, and then I will show the solution. So the problem people run into is now they say, okay, I want some fire to be in this chimney, in this fireplace, because obviously they need it to cook, and it would look good. So here's some fire. All right, I'm going to put the fire. Oh, I can't quite get it in, right? It overlays. So then there's a couple options. I can make it really small, and I can kind of like line it up in front. And it looks okay, but it doesn't look great. Okay, it's not perfect. The problem is if I go to a layer below, if I go to layer 1, which is underneath this too, then it goes completely under all of it, right? So that's another issue that I have. So the solution to this is I go and get another chimney. So let me find another chimney just like this one. All right, here we have it. And we want it to be roughly the same size. Looks a little bigger. A little smaller is better than a little bigger, because we're going to be using it to basically hide and layer, do a little bit of a trick. Okay, so now the chimney is about the same size. I'm going to change this to a layer above the layer the current chimney is. The current layer is layer 2. I'm going to go with layer 3. So now this chimney will go over. If I move this over, it will cover the chimney, which doesn't help me from here, right? Then it's just a new chimney, same problem. But if I rotate the chimney around so that the back, so I only have the back, because the back of it looks very much like the front. Like this almost looks like a continuation of the chimney, right? Because the wall is conveniently hiding the other part of it. So what I do is I move this over until the edge meets the edge of the lower chimney. So it's covering only the rectangular top of the chimney and leaving layer 2 lower part of the fireplace. And why that's important, so I placed it. So now it's there. So now what that allows me to do is I can come up and grab the fire that we were using before. And now if I change this to layer 2, now as I move this in, it still covers and goes over my layer 2 fireplace, but because I put a second fireplace overlapping, it will go underneath that. So now I can have that like little fire peeking out from underneath the fireplace. And that has a much nicer look. Then I will go to light. And this is a little trick I'll teach you, kind of like how I do lighting. So there's a light tool. Go to, it's the 4th one down. And you have environment, which will kind of basically toggle saturation, color saturation, as well as light and dark. So this will kind of control whether it looks like night or day, or if you want to give it like it has an evil red glare or something like that. We'll just keep it up on kind of daytime for right now. Or light tool. And light tool will have a range, intensity of the light, if you want shadows on or off, if you want widgets on or off, the color of the light, which is very important, the style of the light, which comes in 3. I never use this one. It's kind of like this weird, I don't know, like a flashlight from a distance. If you ever pointed it at a wall, kind of looks like that. I really only use point and soft. So we're going to start with point. With point, I almost always use it at a 0.5, at the lowest range possible. And intensity, I generally dial this down to maybe like a 0.8. And what I will do is I'll take that and I'm going to change this to more fire color, orange. I'll change that to the orange because I like that color of light better for fire than putting this whiter light or even this like little lighter orange. So then I'll take this point over to this orange fire and take a look at it now before I've got it on there. Okay, and now I'm gonna put a point on each of these fires. So I'm just gonna go point, point, point. Right now I'm gonna do it one more time. Point, point, point. That's almost a little too bright for me. So I think that looks pretty good. Let's make it just a little bit brighter. So I'll change this to 0.9. And then we'll go point, point, point. All right. Now that looks pretty nice in terms of it's got a nice glow to it. It's, you can see that emanating from the fire a bit. Obviously, it's not casting as much light. So if I were going to do that, I would then switch to the soft, because really all I'm using point for is to kind of highlight the object that's glowing. In this case, the fire. If I wanted to make a lamp, I would do the same thing. I would do the lamp. I would put points on the lamp to make it, this is the thing that is lit. And then if I wanted to control the actual light that's cast, I'll go to soft. I will change this down to a lower setting, and then increase the range. And then from here, I would start to place additional light kind of off to the side and around it till I felt like that's better represented. Now, if I go back up to light, environment, and ambient light and turn ambient light down, now we can get a sense for how this room is lit using that lighting convention on that. Okay, so we'll turn that back up. All right, I'm going to show one more for this session. Keep them kind of short. This is going to be a well. So let's say that there's a well outside that the people from the kitchen go and use. So let's do a door. We'll go to the portal. We're going to building tool, down to portal tool. We'll choose a door. I like to use these big kind of thick doors for exterior doors, because I think it's, you don't want people breaking into your place. So you use a nice big thick door. And then I'll have, the well over here. So for the well, you could go and choose a bunch of things. I like to do a handful of tricks to kind of get it all together. And so I'm going to show you that process. So there's going to be a few pieces that we go out and find. First, we're going to use actually that exact same piece that we had just used for the chimney. We're going to use this piece. I'm going to use this as kind of the base of the well. So this is about 5 feet or so. So I will go ahead and lay that down. Then I'm going to go and find a ring of stones around some water. It looks very well like. There we go. So I'm going to size this down so it kind of lives inside the circle. There we go, of this ring. It's layered kind of nice. Now this is on layer 2. I'm going to change that in a second. So there we go. We layer that. I'm going to change this to below water. So I'm going to do another trick. All right, so I've got my 2 objects. We're not done yet, but I'm going to do this piece first. So there's water here, but we also have a water tool. And why not show you more aspects of Dungeondraft? So what I can add even a nicer version of this. So I can add water. We can pick whatever we want. Let's pick maybe a little slightly darker shade of water. I will use the circular tool, and with the circular tool, basically it's gonna make me draw something like this, right? But I don't have snap on, and because it's not even, snap would make it so it snaps to a vertex, and then that will allow me to draw perfect, potentially perfect circles at the dimensions I want, whereas snap just lets me draw kind of whatever I want here, which is what I want for this. But when you're measuring, what you want to do is go to the top of the circle, of the area you want to be covered, and then take it out until it's equal to the side. So I just kind of eyeball it like, that's probably good. And then I draw my circle. Okay. And now you'll see, because the 2 objects that we chose, we put them as below water. Now you'll see that the water will cover those objects like well water. So it kind of gives that. Now, it doesn't do the cool reflection thing that you can achieve because we've got it over just a flat color. So to achieve that, I will take this bottom without that color. I'm going to shrink this down, almost like this is the bottom of the well. So a little bit of forced perspective. I'm going to change this to below water, but I'm going to put over instead of under, because these 2 objects are also already underwater. If I choose under, it's going to go underneath both of them and not be helpful. Okay, so it needs to be over. And so I'm going to put that underneath, and you can see as I put it underneath the water, it almost looks like it's the bottom of the well, right? And you also get this cool like wavy effect because there's an object underneath the water. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to add the little piece that kind of goes across the well that holds the rope. I like using these masts. They don't have to be used masts. That's one of the main things for the whole thing about Dungeondraft is, yes, these are masts specifically, to this, but why can't this be a wagon wheel? Why can't this be the interior of a mug of beer? Why can't this be a cellar door? Why can't, this be a spoke or a cog in a big machine, right? Why can't this be the top of a toilet seat, right? Of a bathroom? Like, if it looks enough like the thing you're trying, why can't this be a pancake maker? I mean, we don't have one, but why couldn't it be one? It looks like that, right? It looks like the set it and forget it 1 minute, cook the perfect omelet thing. Um, I don't have those in my game, but if I did, why not? Why can't this be a grappling hook, even though it's supposed to be an anchor, right? Use what you think it looks like. Don't worry about what they decided it was. So anyway, I'm gonna pick. Let's pick this one. It looks a little more like rickety. This one looks too nice. So I'll pick this. I'm gonna resize it. I'm gonna move it up to layer 1. I'm gonna change it up, and I'm gonna drill in again so I can get close and kind of do some close work. So then I'm really trying to get it so it's the wood piece is on the inside of this circle, this inner circle of stones, and then the outside. So I'm straddling, this circle of stones. Okay, so I'm gonna go here. That looks pretty decent. Something like that looks good, and then I'll put one right across from it. Okay, so there we go. The next thing I'm gonna do is go get a wooden pole. So I'll go kind of almost all the way up, and there's some poles here. And I'll grab a wooden pole. Now I don't want, I could have the wooden pole go all the way across, and maybe I will. Something like that. Okay. So I could make it just a bit bigger so it goes all the way across. Also, depending on if I want it to convey depth, if there's casting a shadow down below, sometimes I will turn the shadow off because it's not as important and it kind of adds too much around it. So I'll change it to this. So in this case here, I'll make this here, and then I will actually take this little piece, and what we're going to do is, and I think I will add shadow for that. Maybe I will make 2 pieces and have one coming, maybe I'll turn shadow off. I'll have one coming off here like that, and then another maybe slightly smaller piece that comes here. So now it looks like I've got like a little crank that can turn the handle to wind the stuff, the rope up and down with the bucket. So then I'm gonna go find something for my rope, and I do like, there's these little things here. I like these and these. So I'll come down here and I'll just kind of layer these at an angle, kind of like it's rope twisted around the bar. It's a little bit too small, so I'll make it a little bit bigger. That looks a little better. All right, something like that. And then we actually do have a rope path tool, so I can go and grab that, and I want it to be thin, and then I'll kind of have it like come down. It's a little too, just a tiny bit too small. Maybe go it up just a few. Okay, so we're gonna have it come down. I'm gonna have it kind of, I'm gonna be making like a bunch of clicks till we get to here, and then maybe come down, and it's gonna be kind of like looping around so it's on the ground. Okay, and then end like that. That kind of looks like it's limp, layering over the edge and then down to the ground. And then we do have a bucket, so we'll go down to the bucket. There's the bucket, and we'll make sure the size of the bucket looks right. And then we'll kind of have the rope end on the edge of the bucket. There we go. Okay. So, and there you have a well, right? With a little crank, and a pole, and a rope connected to a bucket that you can put into the water on the bottom. So all of those things kind of go into making a very creative well that isn't part of your default Dungeondraft assets. Same way that you have a nice chimney with and fireplace with the ability to put these on it. Actually, let's go one more step. We'll just build off this fireplace. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this into, because it's in a kitchen, so we need kind of a stovetop. So again, these are supposed to be like sewer grates, but I actually like these for grill tops. So I will change the layer to 3 over. So it will go over the top one, because remember we put a layer 3 chimney on top of the layer 2 one to create this border. So I'll size that until it looks about right. And then because this is over, the layer that this is on is over walls, it will go underneath that, which is fine. So I'll just kind of do something like this. Okay, so now I got a couple grill tops. I'll do one more thing since it's all connected to kind of show you the same idea, layering objects to create new objects. So a lot of times what I'll do is I'll say, all right, I'm going to have them making some soup, right? So I get a pot, I come here and put the pot on top of the grill, and then I will go and use this pizza, like this is pizza, but why can't this be the interior of the pot and some soup spoon, stirring it? Looks like a soup pot to me. And then maybe I might go one step further. and say, and they are maybe cooking something. This is a colorable thing. So maybe they've been cooking up some, green stuff, some peas or some other kind of thing that they've got in here. So I color it green. I go over here and hover that over. Still gives me the spoon, takes away the pizza, but still fills in that space. And now they're cooking some kind of green soup on my stove top, on top of my fireplace with my tucked in wood underneath it nicely. And if I need some water for my soup or whatever, I can go out to my well and get that. So that's just kind of a couple real quick examples of some creative asset layering, as well as my kind of initial process of creating a building structure, a shape, delineating the hallways, the flow through the building, the purpose of the rooms, and picking kind of appropriate flooring and color choices for all of those to start having a much easier, in my opinion, way to parse what is going on in the map, especially for interiors. So I hope this was helpful. I encourage you to look through the assets and then just don't pay as much attention to what the asset says it is as much as to what it looks like to you and what you can use it to make. I like layering the assets on top of each other to create all kinds of things that I don't have. And that's one of the reasons why I really like Dungeondraft, because it gives me a lot of power and a lot of flexibility. Both of those are very helpful to someone to the creative process. So anyway, till next time, thanks for watching and talk to you soon.